The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.
Welcome back to Home Field Advantage. My name is Tony Kurre here on, of course, Tony Kurre Radio, TKR. Get that TKR app available through Google, Apple, whatever. And, of course, find us on your favorite podcast. You can hear this show at least 5 days a week on the TKR podcast and radio station. So you can hear the show plenty of times on TKR. And, of course, wherever you get your favorite podcast, you can see it. Or you can come right here to our YouTube channel and see Miss Teresa Autrey with Keller Williams and Tony Kurre doing our show every single week. This is a show. It's a show I told you this before we started several months ago. It's a show that every radio station should be doing, every podcast should be doing, because the housing business is such an important thing right now, not only for individuals who are trying to find a home, but trying to get back in a home. We just changed our president. We got so many things that the interest rates are going all over the place. So it's just a great topical show right now, and it will be for years to come. So Teresa, first of all, Happy New Year to you again. We're almost through the end of January. It's hard to believe, and I understand you've had just a fantastic week.
I had a killer week, and the public, you guys, if this is your first time watching, you are about to be so blessed. But I would like to shout out, today's my mom's birthday, so I want to say happy birthday, Mom.
All right.
You know, she's helped me to be the strong, independent person I am. So happy birthday!
And you have a birthday coming up here in just about a week too.
Yes. But what I'm more excited about is the news that we get to deliver to the public today. I'm so stoked. I told you in the tape, I said, you're going to have to reel me in, buddy, because I got so much energy. You guys, we are so blessed to be Americans and to have the fortitude to just keep moving forward no matter what happens to us. So let's get into the show and let's give the American public some really, really, really good news today.
All right. Well, you can't just keep us hanging. Start delving out the good news, because you got my show peaked, man. I know exactly what I'm going to write down as our teaser tag on this show. There's great news coming up. And you kind of prefaced this a little bit last week when you looked into your crystal ball for 2025 because of the NAR, which is obviously getting together here in just a few days as well. So you kind of gave us a little peep of some of that good news, but we love optimism. What's going on?
Well, let's put all of the 2024 behind us and let's just forge, thrive, and be alive in 2025. That's what I love to say. So, this is my favorite part about real estate, giving the public really good news. So the one good thing about having a new leader who's got a huge background in the real estate industry is that we finally get a voice. And for the first time, the Home Builders of America, the HBI Home Builders Initiative, they actually got a forefront to speak with the man in charge. And we all know that last year, and I'm just going to put it to you straight, you know, I'm a straight shooter. What the feds did with the rate was kind of like a slap in the face. Let's just be honest. Yeah. I mean, there is no reason that debauchery should have happened. So I'm going to give you guys a few things. If you haven't seen the news, they're probably going to be hitting today, so you can double confirm it. But let's just start with item number one. And I'll try to stay as focused as I can. But you know me, when I get excited, I talk fast and I'm all over the place. So I'm going to try to focus here.
Okay.
So let's start with the fact that Donald Trump got really upset with the feds. So he's just like, okay, I'm going to bypass you buddies. You know, we need to do what's in the best interest of the American people. And what is that? Well, let's just call the United Nations. How about that? And just say, well, we need the rates down. What do you guys think? Okay, let's do this. Well, the feds are opposing it. And I'm going like, for what reason? Help me make it make sense. So the rate should be down. And we're talking, I've heard some skeptic of numbers. You know, we can't give you an exact, but they were hovering between 6.5 and 7 over the last couple of months. We talked about this several times, but we're hoping that this year they should be down into the low 6s and possibly, I heard whispers of maybe high 5s.
And these are these interest rates or mortgage rates or both?
These are going to be the rates for the public to get a mortgage.
Okay, mortgage rate.
So your interest rates in order to buy a home are going to be sixes, low 6s, upper 5s. And you guys know, I believe when I got in real estate 100 years ago, rates were 8%, 20% down, and there was no 100% financing. So let me tell you about some regulations that's going to be coming out over the next 90 days.
Okay, great.
You're going to be able to finance 100% mobile home land packages.
Wow. Okay.
That's never happened before. But now that they're being built to better standards, the American public who couldn't afford that $500,000 house, you will now be able to afford that. And the other thing is that before, as I said, the home builders, well, let me preface this by saying the steel industry and the real estate industry run concurrent. We run together. Whatever steel's doing, real estate's doing. Whatever steel does, real estate does, has since the late 1800s for America. So what we are also learning that because of the different things that's happened, and God help us, I'm going to use the president's words. He said the tornadoes in Alabama, the hurricanes in North Carolina, and the fires in California. God bless your souls. Nobody should have to go through that.
Yeah.
The public, the local government, the national government is very upset with FEMA because FEMA waited 2 weeks before they got to North Carolina. Now, I grew up in Mobile, Dauphin Island. I've been through many hurricanes, and there's two things that will damage it worse than anything else: water and fire. So California's got the fire. North Carolina, Alabama had a lot of water damage from the tornadoes. And so what he's done is they literally were going to evict people. FEMA was like the next day. These people have lost everything. What are you doing?
Where you sending them?
And they said that they were very bipartisan because it was mainly to the people that had Trump signs in their house because this happened prior to the election. And we don't want to get into that on our show because that hurts my heart to think people are like that. However, there was overwhelming evidence of that. So now the president has shown, after he had the Zoom call last night with the United Nations, after earlier this week, the president of the United States Home Builders Association got to say a few things. And this was really brought to the forefront of America's foundation. And I hope it helps the public to understand how this is such an important topic.
Did you know this was coming?
I kind of suspected it, but I didn't want to say anything until the president had already done what he was doing.
Yeah.
And the reason I suspected it is this has been an ongoing problem for 4 years. This didn't just happen overnight. The American public has really gotten raked over the coals with the DEI problems, with giving people loans that did not deserve them, with the whole COVID epidemic, PPE crap.
Yeah.
That was just debauchery at its worst, and we just need to move on.
Yeah.
But a few things that I have noticed being feet on the street, active in the real estate industry, and not just being someone in the ivory tower or the following. And we'll start from the top and go down. No one has ever been able to, in the real estate or home building industry, been able to be at the top of the platform in the political forum. I mean, let's just face it, there's some football and television are higher than we are, yet we make America go. So when you get down to the steel workers of America, when you get down to the real estate industry, it's not just the $1 million listings at New York or Los Angeles. Remember when I told you it was going to be a 5 or 10 year process to rebuild most of California? Well, what are you going to do? There's been so much red tape over the last decade that has been installed for permits, for pullings, that it drove lot cost. Used to, lot cost was 10% of the home. You built a $500,000 house, you could expect to spend 10%, $50,000 for the lot. Now, do you know today's numbers that we just discussed were 20 to 50% of the total cost for your lot cost now.
Why is that?
And that's because you're dealing with infrastructure, you're dealing with permitting, you're dealing with loan costs. Everybody's got their hand in the pocket.
Wow.
But it's no more taking pennies, it's commas. And when you go from pennies to commas, you can't make the numbers work.
Yeah.
Then it becomes unaffordable. Then the American people are paying $450,000 for the house that was just $280,000 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Then that's just one aspect of it. Let's get to the next aspect.
Can you back up just real quick? What's the difference between most people who buy a home, say I'm buying a home in Russet Woods and Autrey development? I buy this home and I get the land that the home's on. So I'm getting that lot as part of the deal. What's the difference between me buying a house like that and then going to buy a home that's on a lot that it's separate? Or are you talking about? Are you
saying as a resale versus new construction? Like a home that's already on the site? You paid yesterday's prices for that home. If that home's 20 years old, you're not paying today's construction cost. You're not paying the land cost. you're paying 20 years ago.
Yeah. So when you buy a home now that's already built and it's already you're already getting the lot, it's part of the deal, as opposed to buying the lot and then building the house on it. Gotcha. Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Then here's the next thing. The builders, and you have two forms. You've got the developers, but then the great thing is so many years people have studied, and I'm a huge person in education. Please don't ever think I'm down in education, because I've always been an advocate for it. Believe me, I should own a wing at UAB. Swear to God. But nonetheless, the next phase that we were able to put at the forefront, because again, we've never been in the top 10 issues to deal with the president and with the people. We've always been at the bottom of the list. But guess what? Every American deserves, if they want to own a home and they want to go through the rigorous process, they deserve to have a home. And that's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
If you want a home, we want to get you in a home. We'll put you on a plan. We'll figure it out. But I never want someone to say that the land of the free, you cannot get a home, because it's just so ridiculously money-wise.
Yeah.
So the next thing was, due to the 4-year financial institutions, there are not enough laborers. And I'll give you, for example, number one, it costs everything we're part of, National Association of Realtors, Alabama, Birmingham, MLS, this Builders Association, this Contractors Association, they're all things. You know that. You're part of like a FCC thing.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you got everybody in your pocket, there are some people that are small businesses, been around for generations, maybe septic tanks or roofers, and they're experts, but their kids are now getting into different fields, different avenues. So our biggest issue has been new people coming in. So out of the 450,000 that say are a part of these organizations, you got to think there's probably another 300,000 that are not part of it.
Yeah.
We're still 170,000 workers just in the Southeast short.
Wow.
And that's roofers, plumbers, HVAC guys, concrete people. We're talking about brick masons, driveway. I mean, every dirt people, excavators, you know. And when my dad being a builder and my stepfather being an excavator, and they're long cast now, I learned so much about that. America was built on the hands of the steel workers and the backs of the construction workers. You were able to live in that house because some American went before you and they paid the price and they worked when it was cold. My builders were joking today and said, we're in a heat wave. We've been working outside all week in 18, 19, 11 degrees yesterday morning. Today it's 40 degrees and we're literally like going, yay, we've got sunshine and we're above freezing. So thank a contractor. I mean, I hate to say it, but where would you be living in? And when it's Thanksgiving, or did your heat go out this week, or did this happen? And that brings me to my next point. So when we're short of these, the Home Builder Initiative is going to allow, and President Trump is trying to get this passed through, but I don't think he's going to have a problem with it, or at least he shouldn't. But he's trying to get it passed through to where you actually can hire people, because studies show it takes 20 years to do something before you're considered an expert, whether you went to school or not.
Yeah.
Get a degree, that's great. But the problem is we don't have enough 20 to 25-year-olds that are going to come in behind us. And the custom builder, they're a dying breed. I've met with 3 of them this week who said, we're a dying breed. What are we going to do? We're trying to find apprentices to take over. We're trying to find people to come in. And so the hopes are that we're going to be able to do that with some incentives, whether it's tax deductions or whether it's tax incentives, because I feel like that's a far better way to expand the businesses than it is to all this PPP stuff that happened during COVID.
Yeah.
The other thing is the Americans are back at work. So that means more people are going to be driving, more people are going to be, you know, actually working, and they're going to be out seeing things and wanting things differently. It's just by nature, activity breeds activity. So let's discuss the sad part of the situation.
Okay.
So we talked about FEMA a little bit earlier. Well, President Trump went there today to see it, and he literally spoke this morning and said it was one of the saddest things he saw because FEMA waited 2 weeks to get in. You can't leave water setting for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So the first thing is maybe taking it out of the federal hands and putting it back in the local hands. And we've had actually, I appreciate Tommy Tuberville so very much. I've met him. He's a very humble man. but literally I've talked with him in person 4 years ago about this. Praise God, he was able to discuss it himself because he said, never should we put something in somebody's hands that doesn't know the local market, that doesn't know the local economy, and say, oh, yeah, just let's drop you over there in the middle of a disaster and you go figure it out.
Yeah.
That don't even make any kind of crazy sense.
Mm-mm.
No. That'd be like dropping a baby off in the middle of a toy aisle, just saying, get what you want.
Yeah.
So with that being said, they were able to see some huge issues with that. I think Miss Blackburn, who's a senator with Tennessee, along with the governor from North Carolina, were able to bend the ear a little bit and explain that a lot of that needs to be put back in the hands of the local government.
Okay.
And it goes back to we lost 100, and I know this doesn't sound like a lot, but we lost 150,000 farms last year due to crisis and sales to international investors.
Really?
We could not allow China and Russia to buy up our land here in America. So what they're trying to do is get things back in America, get things grown back here, get the farmers back together, and get the timber back together. Because what do you build houses from? And it all works in a sweet cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for the first time, we went so far in one direction that it really opened some people's eyes. And with that being said, my prayer and my hopes are, and what I foreshadow, is that we're going to put some tough regulations on where the money's coming from, who's buying what here in America. The second thing is that we're going to put FEMA into the hands of the local people.
Mm-hmm.
If you've never been in a hurricane, you really can't describe it. I have friends from California that came out to Alabama and during the Shoal Creek Lake LPGA,
Mm-hmm.
and I was with them, and we had just an F1 tornado. It wasn't even high wind for us.
Yeah.
The whole earth was going to explode, and I go out there, and I'm in an earthquake, and two different worlds. I'm like, you griped about the wind blowing, your whole ground moved, and we go back and forth. So those are just some of the things that we really need to focus on. And in so doing that, we're going to put a little bit of the boots on the ground and the public back to more secure positions. I never want to see somebody who's been flooded out for 4 to 6 months saying you're going to be kicked out of your hotel tomorrow because FEMA don't want to put you up anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe if we hadn't been putting up the $10 million, in fact, Texas is suing for $11.1 billion for border security because of all the money they've had to fork out.
Yeah.
And the states are not able to be self-supporting in that type of situation. So, in my opinion, I think the real estate industry is about to burst, full-fledged, full ride, full steam ahead, kind of open. And I think that because the home builder said it, and you can look up the article if you want, it's been in USA Today, it's on YouTube, it's been on CNN, it's been on Fox, where he said literally, we've never been able to speak. And he was able to talk about the interest rates. He was able to talk about the labor crisis. He was able to talk about the material shortage.
Well, and that says a lot about, obviously the president we have, who's obviously a real estate guy. I mean, he loves and buys and sells in real estate. What did you learn from since we're talking about this, what did you learn from his first presidential stint as president number 45 going into this number 47? And it's the one thing about this is we kind of know how he works. Now, we hope that he's a little more polished than he was the first time, obviously, a lot of different areas. But we do know he likes to move the needle pretty quick. But what did you learn from him being president 8 years ago as opposed now?
Well, he's a lot. And I know this is going to sound crazy because obviously I'm not a billionaire or anything like that. But being in development, knowing what you have to go through to get all this stuff done, what I feel like he's going to do is take more of initiative on cutting some of the BS red tape in order to you can still have very safe procedures and safety rules and regulations without having all this BS red tape.
Yeah.
Another thing is the hiring by merit. How are you going to talk construction if you literally, I have one of my investors who said this, Teresa, you understand this more than most, because I was telling another agent, it's just a numbers game. We're not trying to insult you, but if the numbers don't work, we can't make it happen. They couldn't fathom that. They were reeling off of emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, some of the situations just are what they are, but if the numbers don't work, it don't work.
Yeah.
And he thanked me because he said, you are one of the few that can understand this. So knowing the real estate background and knowing how it and the steel industry drive America. Also, one of the things I'm not very savvy about, but the one thing I can appreciate is when you have people like AI, OpenAI, Oracle, Larry Ellison, when you have those billionaires come together and they say, hey, let's work on a solution instead of being competition, let's be collaborators, then you are going to come out with a better product, with a better America. And when they're saying, hey, we're going to infuse $500 billion into your market, that tells me that you can make deals. And one of the things I learned is if there's a deal to be made, you can always make a deal, and it can always benefit everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You can always try to find a win-win in a situation. And I really think that in his older years, he's got visionary. Not a lot of people can envision things.
Yeah.
And I have one builder, for instance, he loves spec houses. And I said, well, for every pre-sale I give you, I need a spec house because I need inventory in production at all times. And you don't know how much that's true. It's hard to see something like when Elon Musk first talked about the first electric car, it was hard to see it, but now you see them driving all over.
Sure.
And whether you're a fan or not, they exist and they're here. So some of the things that you need, in my opinion, not just full competency, but decisions need to be made. They need to be made fast.
294-4210, 294-4210. Teresa Autrey with Keller Williams. We've been doing this show now for several months. It's taken off. And obviously, we'd love to get your emails, your questions, info@TonyCurryRadio.net, info@TonyCurryRadio.net. That is wonderful news. I love hearing that wonderful news. And I have felt you bubbling up over the last couple of weeks. And certainly when you were talking about the NAR and their meetings coming up next week, I knew you had some really exciting things that we're going to be talking about. It's funny because you were talking about, as opposed to everyone being competitive with each other, collaborating together. And I had a good friend of mine, Kiefer, who does several shows on my radio network. He does a show called Need to Know. Yeah, you met him on the television show. He was talking about what it was like, back in the Depression days and even back in the World War II days when we all got together, when Ford got together with Carnegie and got together with Rockefeller and got together, as opposed to them trying to beat each other up. JP Morgan, they all got together and said, listen, we can help and make this. At one point, JP Morgan was financing our country, for God's sakes. And we're starting to see that with the Elon Musks and some of those bigger dogs, the Jeff Bezos and some of those guys showing up at inaugurations. And so you got really smart guys with really deep pockets, and that's not always a bad thing to have around you when you're trying to rebuild or trying to make something great again.
Well, and one thing I do want to announce to the public locally, because, we go inside out, local family first, and I'll make this quick. I have personally this week had 4 new developments that's going to be coming online.
Wow. In
the Alabaster, Pelham, Hoover, and one's a little bit of a secret areas. And we're talking about really nice homes, custom homes. So if you guys are thinking about buying this year, reach out, because we're going to have a lot of nice homes. And we're going to have, we were just hashing out our floor plans this week. We're got the plot plans in. We've got lots available. So you can pick the prime lots now. We're going to have some estate homes and garden homes. It's going to be something for everybody. And I have not been this excited in a very long time, because I promise you, activity breeds activity. Yes. And it's only going to get better from here.
Can't wait. Thank you, baby doll. I appreciate you. Give them a number one more time and how they can get in touch with you.
Sure. And I'm going to say it right this week. I get so nervous. So it's 205-294-4210, Teresa Autrey. Also reach out to Tony Kurre here, or reach out on our YouTube, Home Field Advantage, or you can reach out via email. And Keller Williams, Metro North Birmingham. So we're just here to help you in whatever endeavors you'd like to go forward with.
Thank you, Teresa. We'll catch up next week.
Thank you.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.